You're listening to Arcane Carolinas, an exploration of the Carolinas' folklore, legends, myths, and modern weird. Each episode, we examine the historical context of our topic and aim to preserve some of the stories that help make this part of the world such a fascinating place. Hello and welcome to part 3 of our deep dive on Bath, North Carolina. I'm your co-host, Charlie Mushaw.
I'm your co-host, Michael Williams, and I don't know. I want to make a joke about shaking the dust from my shoes at anybody who shakes the dust from their shoes, but I don't know. It's right back at you.
George Whitfield would not be a fan of Taylor Swift.
Ooh, wow, for multiple reasons. Gosh.
She dances.
She dances and she's got a sense of perspective.
Telling people to shake it off? No, you're shaking at them. You're doing it wrong. So the year is 1813 in Bath, North Carolina. And
that's from the episode, but I just thought for a second that it was welcome to the historical chuckle factory.
Yeah, if you don't like us just messing around and having a laugh with each other, you probably hate this month.
Yeah, well,
because it's just nonstop giggle bombs.
Oh well.
All right, so the year is 1813, and we are going to talk about the Hoofprints at Bath, sometimes called the Devil's Hoofprints.
Ooh.
Sometimes called the Magic Horse Tracks, which is a much it sounds like that sounds like Lucky Charms or something. Oh, the Magic Horse Tracks.
I just want to know if the Devil's Footprints were they doing the waltz or were they doing the foxtrot? I don't know. I hear that that's very likely.
In this area, yes. Certainly wasn't just walking in a circle. This is actually the first one that drew me to Bath, which it's funny that we got to it this late, but as you start to look into the history of Bath, North Carolina, you're like, okay, there's just way too much here. So the story goes that in the early 1800s, there was a real rabble-rouser named Jesse Elliott. And Jesse Elliott liked to race horses and hang out with his friends instead of going to church on Sundays. On one such Sunday, while racing his horse, he is said to have yelled out, "Take me in a winter or take me to hell." At which point, the horse dug in its hooves, stopped on a dime, and threw him directly into a tree, snapping his neck and killing him on the spot.
Oh, gosh. Be careful what you wish for.
So some versions also have the horse dropping dead, and some versions have that when his friends that he was racing with went to get help and came back, the body was gone.
Oh,
yeah.
I like that.
Whatever happened, and we'll get into that, what is universally accepted is that marks from the horse's hooves in the soil are said to remain there unchangeable ever since to this day. You fill them in, they'll be sunken back down by the morning. You put something in them, they'll be emptied out. Nothing grows in them. It's a very devil's tramping ground.
Wow.
Yeah. And the lore around these indentations grew and grew over the years, and people would do experiments and they would say oh, I put chicken feed across the area, including in the hoofprints, and the chickens would eat feed all around them, but would not eat the feed from the hoofprint. A farmer in the area said in the 1940s that he let his pigs muck around in them at one point, and pigs will destroy ground, and that after the pigs had been removed from the area and it rained a couple of times and everything settled out or whatever, that the hoofprints reappeared.
Interesting.
One time, someone put stuff in the hooves and then put a web of twine over them. And a couple days later, the hoofprints were empty and the twine hadn't been disturbed. The accident or curse, whatever you want to call it, happened in 1813. Obviously the accounts that I'm giving come up to the 1940s. Over the course of in excess of 100 years, the hoofprints became such a huge attraction that there were stories in the Associated Press, early film reel footage, when film was new. I'm wow, we should go get videotape of the hoofprints. And the legend has persisted so strongly that the North Carolina Department of Conservation and Development used them in marketing materials to promote tourism in 1937 in their magazine, North Carolina Today.
I love that. That's amazing.
That specific issue is available through ncdcr.gov for free. You can download it and flip through it. It's awesome. There's early pictures of the Blue Ridge Parkway on it.
Ooh.
It's really, really neat. And we'll post some pictures to Facebook. The AP article that I mentioned ran in 1944, and these hoofprints have been in every single book on North Carolina folklore that I've ever picked up. There was even a concession stand at one point. Whoever owns the plot of land threw up get your lemonade and a hot dog, want some popcorn, go look at the hoofprints. It was a real attraction. It was covered in 1946 on a radio program, Tales of Tarhelia, that we've talked about before, dictated by John Harden. And after broadcast, he was contacted by a member of the family. Galen Elliott, great-great-grandson of Jesse Elliott, contacted John Harden and said, I'd like to talk to you about what really happened to my great-great-grandfather.
Whoa.
And John Harden said, okay. So the Elliott family owned a slave that they referred to, and I only use this term uncle because that's what they referred to him as sort of a way of processing the fact that they were mistreating this person, I think.
Okay.
So Uncle Washington is what this person was known as. This was not actually their uncle. They owned a slave.
Right.
I'm not trying to soften the reality of that, but that is the name given in the manuscript.
Right. That is the term that the people experiencing this used for that person.
Yeah. So I will refer to him as Mr. Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Washington was very, very young at the time of Jesse Elliott's demise, and he worked in the stables. He tended to the horses that the Elliott family owned. And Galen's father is the one that was alive when Mr. Washington was still alive and told him, this is what happened to your great grandfather. So Galen's father told Galen that he didn't actually die on a Sunday. A local minister added that detail as a way to try to scare people into going to church.
Right. A little razzle dazzle.
Very Whitfieldian of him.
Yes.
He actually died on a Friday, and it happened to be Christmas Eve.
Ooh.
So it was very easily passed down like fact. He didn't have any work. He didn't have anything to do. He went out riding on Christmas Eve. Horse bucked him. They don't know why. He didn't break his neck. His skull got split open.
Oh, yowza.
So he did die. He did get thrown off a horse on Christmas Eve. It was against the tree that once stood at the Hoofprints. All of that is real.
Mm-hmm.
The hoofprints are still there. That's real too. Well, there's circles on the ground. I wouldn't call them distinct hoofprints, and we'll get into that. But yeah, that really happened. Christmas Eve, 1813, a Friday. Dude got thrown off a horse, smacked into a tree, died. The horse is fine, which is wild to me that this account was able to be found.
Yeah, it is so rare to find real historical facts that in any way bolster or otherwise support, a piece of folklore like that.
Yeah.
Had I just read that in a magazine or something, because I'm 700 years old, so sometimes I read magazines, but had I just read that account, then I would have immediately dismissed it as, well, this is just a legend.
The thing is, they're still there. This doesn't change the weird indents in the dirt.
Yeah.
So I went out there when I was in Bath. I found the GPS coordinates online, and I plugged the GPS coordinates in. There are some other websites out there, if you do a little bit of digging, that'll tell you roughly, go here, then turn left, then turn right, and then this is where they are. But there's one or two that actually have geocaching coordinates. It is private property. You will be trespassing if you go there.
Okay.
It's a field. Field is a strong word. Plot of land between two houses, bordered on one side by trees and forest. It's mostly clear. When I was there was a giant wood pile, which was interesting. Someone was seasoning firewood on the lot. A thin bit of trees on the border. And then, as I mentioned, another field on the other side. I walked around there quite a bit. It's pretty unremarkable. I found some circular patches between clumps of grass, and that's about what I could find. I feel like this legend is kind of fading out. At one point, they were cordoned off. At one point within the last 15 years, there was stakes driven into the ground with some steel cable. Those appear to be gone.
Oh.
So I feel like this is kind of fading out. I feel really good about retelling this legend because I was able to find, like I said, some circles where nothing grew.
Wow.
And I also harvested some cursed dirt. So you know me. I got the Rapid Test 5000 out.
I do think that it's really valuable to preserve these stories, especially if it seems like this is something that could potentially fade from memory. I think it's so worthwhile to preserve that piece of folklore. I had never heard of this and have been to Beaufort. I've been, just right down the road, basically.
Yeah, it's totally unremarkable. You would drive right by it if you didn't know where to look. Well, the Rapid Test 5000 showed that the soil can support growth. Shocker. As there's grass growing all around them. Of course it can. It's a little less shocking than the Devil's Tramping Ground for some reason. I don't know why it's less shocking to me, but it was just oh, well, yeah, of course. All in all, it was weird, a little disappointing. The folks in one of the houses next door looked at me across the field.
Did you throw in the horns?
Yeah, I was like, I'm here for the hoofprints. I shook my shoes at them.
Were they like your special devil's Hoofprints shoes?
Evil dust. I'm guessing they're used to weirdos walking around in this field.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, pretty cool story. The most interesting part of the story for me is the origin, what really happened. So yeah, I hope people keep telling it. And I hope whoever owns the land considers filing for a historical marker. I feel like you could certainly get one for that if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Register it with the state. I mean, it was a part of state literature, state issued literature.
Yeah.
That's it for this segment. It's another mini segment on the history of Bath, North Carolina.
I think it's really fascinating, though.
1.
You've been listening to Arcane Carolinas. Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, give us a rating, leave a comment. If you didn't like it, send us an email and tell us why. If you're not wrong, we'll try to fix it.
And if you're interested in award-winning speculative fiction, including science fiction, urban fantasy, and horror, find me, Michael G. Williams, at www.michaelgwilliamsbooks.com and check out Falstaff Books at falstaffbooks.com.
If you'd like to pick up some Arcane Carolinas merch, look at behind-the-scenes info, pictures, videos, stuff like that, all the things that get cut, check out arcanecarolinas.com, where you can get access to our Patreon, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, all that in one place, including the merch store. Buy a shirt.
Clothe your body.
Drape your body in our wares.
Be our living billboards.